evening, everyone. Welcome to the Crawford Family Forum. That's on behalf of Southern California Public Radio, KPCC. We're so glad to have you here tonight. This is going to be a fabulous program. When we read about Annabelle Gurwitch's latest book, I See You Made an Effort, we knew we wanted to have her here with us in this room and have a program. And as we talked with her about it, she suggested that her friend, Jerry Stahl, join her in conversation. We completely agreed, and here we are. I want to give you just a very little bit of background on the two of them, although I think from this audience and the buzz in the room when you all came in that you probably know all this very well. Annabelle is an actress and author of You Say Tomato, I Say Shut Up, with her husband, Jeff Kahn, and the Fired book and documentary film. She co-hosted Dinner and a Movie for TBS for 6 years, anchored the award-winning HBO series Not Necessarily the News, and appeared on TV shows including Dexter, Boston Legal, Seinfeld, Oprah, Real Time with Bill Maher, and The Today Show. That's quite a lineup. She has performed at UCB, the Geffen Playhouse, and the Moth Main Stage, as well as, and this is my favorite, as in unheated, off-off, nowhere near Broadway theaters. The Washington Post calls her hilarious, and O Magazine says that she is slyly subversive. Again, that's my favorite quote. Jerry Stahl is an author, journalist, and screenwriter. He has 6 books to his credit, including the memoir Permanent Midnight, which was made into a film with Ben Stiller, and the novels Painkillers, I, Fatty, which was optioned by Johnny Depp, and Bad Sex on Speed. He's a former culture columnist for Details. His fiction and journalism have appeared in Esquire, The New York Times, Playboy, The Rumpus, The Believer, and more. He recently edited the anthology The Heroine Chronicles and co-wrote the HBO film Hemingway and Gellhorn with Clive Owen and Nicole Kidman. His latest book, Happy Mutant Baby Pills, was published last November by HarperCollins, and books are available for sale outside courtesy of Romans, and both of them will be signing after the program. So with that, I'm going to turn the program over. Please make a warm welcome for Annabelle and Jerry.
Thank you, Janice. We have to make a correction here. Jerry has 8 books. That's 8. 2 more. He wrote them while Janice was speaking.
Yes.
It's amazing how you whip those things out.
Well, you know, they're massively non-selling books, so I can really crank them out fast, and it gives me a certain freedom.
Right, because the promotion for them is so short. I'm just kidding. Can I just say...
A tweet or two, and we just move on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can I just say, one of the titles of your books is Bad Sex on Speed. Is there good sex on speed? Is that like going to be the follow-up? Is there good sex on speed?
What time is it now?
That I don't remember.
Well, you know, there will be a sequel.
Okay.
Thank you.
Even worse.
It's not a
Sex
how-to
on Speed.
book.
Okay, great.
Though there is a little self-help.
People have actually asked me if this is like a how-to book, and I always say I only write how not to books. And you know, also, I mean, it's just really ill-advised to ever do anything that anyone who has ever worked as an actress is doing. I mean, I think we should just say that as a blanket statement, right? Like, for God's sakes, don't do what she's doing. She was an actress.
What is the most mortifying actress-related activity that you put in a book? I mean, I have some of my favorites, but what are yours?
Just being one? No, I have a tremendous respect for actresses. Not so much for myself as an actress. Let's see. You know, the funny thing is, I don't think that this story actually made the book. But I'll tell this now. You know, I do talk about, I mean, because the book has memoir elements in it, but it's not really a memoir. I mean, it's a memoir about turning 50, but it's not a memoir of my life. That was a really important point to me, because I didn't want this to be a book about an actress turning 50. And I felt that if it was just a straight memoir, it could be the themes that I wanted to deal with about turning 50 would be overshadowed by stuff about show business, which I'm not interested in, you know. So it's sort of, I corralled those actress things into 2 chapters, at least in my mind I did. When you read it, you can say, well, a little bit snuck in other places. But I don't think this line, and maybe you'll read it and you'll correct me, it made it in the book, but I write about, though, the early years in my 20s because I'm referencing the difference of the way I think now and the way I thought then. And I was spending those years trying to work as an actress in unheated, off, nowhere near Broadway theaters. I mean, trying to, not even just like ending up in it, but that was actually my goal because I wanted to be part of the avant-garde experimental theater world. The weirder, the better. If it was translated from German, I was in. If it was in German, it was even better. It had to be very, existential. But I had the amazing good fortune, which is really sets you up for terrible expectations in life. It's a terrible mistake. Of when I first moved to New York to start studying at NYU, I ended up within 2 months getting cast in a play at the New York Shakespeare Festival with Joseph Papp. And of course, that play, as luck would have it, never opened. In fact, I found out that we were being canceled by the guy at the concession stand, which is one of those great lessons in entertainment industry. I came in for work that night, and he was like, "Do you want your brownie with the house discount tonight?" I was like, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "Well, it won't last much longer." I'm like, "What?" The brownie guy is telling me we're being canceled. But for that show, it was a Jacobean tragedy, but it had a lot of, we had like stage fighting and stuff. And I had to wear, you're just like, where is she going with this? I had to wear, Jerry, you can't see him if you're listening to the radio, but he's like, really? There's a better be a payoff. I had to wear knee pads under my gown, and the knee pads had last been worn by Meryl Streep. And so they had her name X'd out and my name put in, and that is the closest I've come to becoming the next Meryl Streep. It's my actress story.
Where do you go from there?
Nowhere. And let's do a signing. Nowhere at all. Nowhere at all. It's all on your knees.
It's funny. This is you've written a book about aging into 50, and
yes.
Oddly, I'm the one having a hot flash. Are
you having a hot flash? It is kind of hot, but see, I'm a vain former actress. I can't take my jacket off because of the way that you can age out of your clothing. My pants are actually, they're too low rider, and they...
Are you going to be showing some little,
Muffin top is not a good word. I'm actually against it.
What do you prefer?
I prefer fat floaty. Because it's like a swim floaty, but it's just a layer of fat that just sticks around no matter what I do.
Call me crazy, but I hear a defiant pride.
You know what? This book, I feel, is
you own it.
Throwing down
You
the
own the
gauntlet.
floaty.
Well, yeah, I do. It's my earned
Now,
it.
is there like a male floaty?
I guess the belly.
Don't examine me that closely. Yeah,
I'm looking.
I've got my
carefully
man girdle
there.
on, so it will never show.
All right. Well, so that's why I can't
I don't
take
step out of the house without buttoning down.
I can't take my jacket off because I didn't wear the Spanx because it was a long evening and I like breathing. Call me crazy. I wanted to breathe. Can I say one thing about this, by the way, this auditorium? If you're listening at home, you've never been to the Crawford Family Forum, it's very modern, and I feel I look good in a modern setting. Because I realized, this is one of those age-related moments, it was when I realized that my furniture was aging me. I've aged out of my own furniture. Because when you're younger and you collect antique furniture, it's like, oh, it's cool and eccentric. And then when you get to a certain age, you're just an old broad with old furniture. I'm hoping to make enough money to one day get the streamlined stuff, you know what I mean? Like very elegant lines, like this building is very, I feel good in it.
You look good. These
Thank
lines
you.
really agree with you.
These lines agree. Actually, it's funny, right before we started
I thought you requested the building. actually.
Yeah, really? Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. Right before we started this, I was in the ladies' room, and there were a bunch of ladies. I was like, why don't we just have the night in here? And I invited Jerry to do this night with me. Then I was like, well, I bet Jerry spent a lot of time in ladies' bathrooms in the 1980s, right? You'd be comfortable in there.
Well, one or two. See, that's the difference between men and women, because in the men's room, there were three guys my age just standing there trying to pee, with one hand on the wall, just like, all right, the prostate's a little boggy,
The indignities.
That's what they say when they examine you. That prostate's a little boggy.
A little, really?
Little boggy, always the size of a walnut. That's the two words, boggy walnut.
Wow. Well,
But that's my book, and I haven't written it yet.
Oh, well,
so.
you can start
boggy walnut.
writing it now. Probably by the way you churn them out, you'll have it done by the time we finish. Then it'll be 9 books. And thank you, Jerry Stiller, the author of 9 books by the time we finish.
And I love that you call me Jerry Stiller.
Jerry Stiller, oh my God.
Either way.
I looked at you and called you. I just aged you up.
You sure did.
I aged you
Wow.
up. I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay.
You know what?
Listen,
It's the short-term memory thing. This one of the things I write about in the book is this, these moments when you realize you are, in fact, at a different point in your life. And that is one of the reasons why I included the number 50 in the book. The thing was, I actually started this book when I was 49. I thought it would come out when I'm 50, and we'd have like a party, and but it took me 2 more years to write it because my brain is menopausal, so I'm 52 now. But I never changed the title because I thought From the Edge of 52 didn't have the same ring to it.
Does the menopause help your writing in any way?
God, no. No, it helps in nothing. There's no
upside?
There's no upside. In fact, there's the Tampax budget that I can now spend on antidepressants. Yay. It's so funny. I was with someone yesterday who was telling me she related to this thing. This is one of the things, which is why you can't get this in the digital world, and why I feel like I'm still an old school person. I always say when old school is now just your school, you're on the edge of 50. When you get to interact with readers instead of being online with people. And she was telling me that she also had this thing that I wrote about in the book, which was, I had this moment of wistful nostalgia for buying Tampax, and I write about this in the book, where I just remember how it pained me so much when I was a teenager. I would buy the magazines and other gross, because you got to hide it because someone might see that you're buying Tampax. It was so embarrassing. And then, that when it comes to the point when I don't need to buy it anymore, and I figured out that I could still buy them because my son might have friends over who need them, and then I went to the store and I was just so excited. I was like, where are the Tampax? Do you have Tampax anyway? I was like, and then I walked over and nothing. I'm not buying. I needed other groceries. I actually not buying anything else but that blue box, and just walked out. No, I don't need a bag. Thank you. I'm a lady, and there's proof of it, And
How many stores did you hit that day?
20, 30, all up and down the California coast. And then I was like, it doesn't even stop there, because this is the kind of obsessive I am. Then I went home, and I was like, and I better open up the box.
Yeah.
Because I don't want a girl to come in the bathroom and feel she'll be noticeable if she uses one. So I'll take one out, and so she won't think she's the only one and feel self-conscious. The ridiculous amount of thought that, how do I get dressed every day? It's so embarrassing. And then I write about it. Crazy town. Yeah. So I can still do that and have a menopausal brain. That's something. But you know what? Actually, I brought this because I haven't actually.
You brought a Tampax?
No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't. But I brought this. This is an example of why I really do think that 50 is, as I like to say, 50 is maybe the new 50, but 50 is not the new 40. People, no one who's 40 when you're 50 thinks you're the same age as them. I don't want to break it to anybody. Unless you are really tattooed and pierced, no, you're not. And you know, and there's something about that I think is so unempowering, to constantly be trying to not be where you are, not be the age you are. But here's the evidence that I just really am this age. So I got it together, this book, because I haven't done this before. I was like, I'm going to have cards made. I'm going to have a business card, because, you know, I don't have a card, right?
And if you can't see it, that is a very smart-looking card.
It's a book cover.
Kind of an old-school pair of bloomers. Would they be called bloomers?
They're granny panties.
Granny panties. Forgive me.
Granny panties.
A place I've never been yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Actually, not yet.
One of my yets
is my motto. Yeah. Not yet. Mm-hmm. Or still here. Annabelle. But actually, I do have like my motto, which is Annabelle Gurwitch since 1961. Right on the card, people. Right on the card. Just going for it. But you won't you won't get to experience the thrill of getting one of these cards, because I put my email address on it and I spelled it wrong. That's right. I spelled it wrong, didn't notice it, had 200 cards that I will never use printed up, which I could take a pen, write my email address, but then why don't I just do that when I see you? I mean, it's ridiculous. This is the...
But you never did stuff like that when you were 20? I mean, I've done stuff like that my whole life, and I can't blame menopause.
Okay, actually...
I mean, I could, but that would be... That's a different book.
Well, actually, it's worse than that. It's not really that I just spelled it wrong. It's that it's an account. It's a Gmail account that I can't get into because I can't remember the password. It's a longer story, and it just goes on and on. I mean, because the problem is, I've tried to get out of where I'm at now with, you know, to get into Gmail, and I've tried all these combinations of my name so many times that I can't get in it because I can't remember any of the passwords, and I can't remember the account that I tried to open it from. And then they have these security questions, like what is the capital of Latvia, that I must have answered at one point that I can't remember. So I can't get Annabelle Gurwitch Gmail. I can't get a Gurwitch Gmail. I can't get just a Annabelle Gurwitch 1. All of them. I've burned every single one, and I tried to call Google, and you know, I'm still on hold with them right now. Still, 3 months
It's tough
later.
with Google. I actually spoke at Google, and while I was there, I asked them why they list me as married to someone named Brandy Alexander, a porn star from the 80s who I never met.
Wow.
And who probably now wears granny panties. But
Probably.
And no one there.
That's
none of
like
the techies. Well, that's a whole other movie too, but not at the Moan Broadcasting Center.
I guess not.
Not the Crawford. It's not Crawford family material.
No,
But,
I don't think so.
they don't know. They're not going to help you.
They won't help
They couldn't.
you.
I loved them,
Right.
but they couldn't help me. They had a fun room. They had a department of fun.
They have an
over at Google.
department of fun. That is
Yes.
so Google. That's so
Very
Google. Wow, that's impressive.
But I think you're handling age the wrong way. I always take.
I'm handling it the wrong way.
Well, you know, Tennessee Williams. He was perpetually caught lying about his age, and he would
Right.
say, "Yeah, but I don't count the 4 years I worked in a shoe store."
Oh, you just
So
delete.
I deduct the 15 on heroin, and now I'm pushing 50 again.
Oh, I like that. Well, you know, but that's that slippery slope of what do you delete, then
Yeah.
what do you keep, what do you delete? I mean, I do, you know, that is one of those things. I mean, I did put some thought in this book. I like to think that what I'm writing about, it goes from the neurotic to the biological. I mean, there are so many levels in which I think aging impacts you that I was not prepared for. I do feel like I was a child. I mean, I do feel like it. I was a child of the 70s. I mean, I was born in 61, but you know, with those Clairol commercials, they said, you know, you're not getting older, you're getting better. But I am getting older. Clairol lied to us. I might be getting better, but I'm also getting older.
But don't you feel you're very good at getting old? I mean, you look great. You wrote a book about it. It's clearly working for you.
I don't. It takes like a lot of energy. I mean, that's why I see you made an effort. It takes a lot of effort. I mean, it takes an effort for me to remind myself not to make old people noises when I stand in public.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's a lot more.
I get that from my kid, who's you're making the old guy noise when you stand up.
Yeah.
And the worst part
Yeah.
is if you have a tiny baby, they start making the old guy noise when they stand
that is
up.
well. You're
and that's just wrong.
You're what is it? You're the original gangster dad. That's the blog that you have.
OG, which I
OG.
was asked to spell, as you'll recall,
I
when
love that.
auditioning for this. Yes.
Original gangster. Well, you're just
OG dad. Yeah.
You're
old
crazy.
guy, but that's actually old guy dad. That's not really
old
original
guy
gangster.
dad. Yeah, you've got a kid who's two, three.
Well, I
She's
figure-
so cute.
Make a new mistake. That's my motto. I never had the
Make
chance
new mistakes.
to have a baby at 59 before.
Right.
And when I had it, I went for it. I grabbed it.
Yeah. See, that is why I can't just laugh as a woman, like, that's so funny. You can do that. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm not saying it's the equivalent of waving a tampon around, but it's
If I was
it's
waving a
wonderful.
tampon, this is going the wrong way. Yes.
It's a great thing,
No,
because
but-
now I can do it right, and I'm with somebody I actually love, and it's great.
That's never.
Did I just go Oprah on you? I'm sorry. I just
No,
went Oprah.
you just no. It's just interesting. I mean, there's when you said you're doing it well. I mean, I really do feel that it takes an effort to age in this culture that is a youth-oriented culture. I mean, and I mean that as I was saying, on so many different levels, you can begin to feel marginalized and invisible. And I mean, real levels, in the employment world. We are on NPR after all for a moment here. I'm just going to talk about long-term unemployment. There's nothing harder than being fired and being marginalized in work and in employment at this age. It's really hard. I mean, how many we live in a society of, we're all reinventing. How many reinventions can you do at this age? It's a real challenge.
I will only say that if you get to the Midwest, when I see men my age in the Midwest,
Yes.
they're old men. They're
Well, yes,
old,
but-
sad, fat, lonely, old guy smelling men. And I know because I'm related to them.
Right. Well,
I'm not saying I don't look, in the
Right.
ballpark, but boy, it's rough sledding back there in Pittsburgh where I grew up.
Well, I do. Look, when you look at what the different kind of work people do, that has a huge impact on how you age. I mean, there's something I say in the book, though, about it's not a stretch to say that you can get a pretty good idea of people's economic status by looking at their skin. Because this is that's one of the things that I think leads to so much anxiety and unhappiness around aging at this point I'm talking about, the world at large, is you don't know what you're looking at anymore. There isn't a template anymore. I mean, and not to say, and this isn't a judgment at all, but, it's not your mother's 50 anymore. It's not your grandmother's 50. There was... Okay, the word matronly. My grandmother embraced that matronly. It was great to be a matron. It was a badge of honor to be a grandmother. She was 50 when 50 carried some weight, and she really did carry some weight. That's true. But I mean, there was a dignity to it. There was a position in society that you could have at that age. Even my mother was a grandmother at 50, and part of that is. And so, first of all, the way people life looked more difficult on them. My grandmother, and I do write a little bit in the book about my grandmother, my mother, just as a touchstone. Now, I just said the word touchstone, which means I'm old. I just want to say, touchstone is a touchstone for AARP territory. But my grandmother lived through a pogrom. She was in an orphanage in the Ukraine where they didn't really like Jews so much around 1910, and perhaps they don't right now. It's debatable whether or not what's some
They
of the
love
hate
Jews in the
speech. They
Ukraine.
love Jews. They
Love
couldn't
Jews.
wait to get rid of us there.
Yeah.
Those years were very hard, and they showed on her. But there was also a badge of honor in being this matron, in being the matriarch of the family. We live in a culture now that doesn't value that. So one place, but at the same time, we're living in a economic time when we can expect to be working longer. So we need to stay viable and visible economically and in the workplace at a time when you are being marginalized. But we have an expectation that we will be, I call us the never retirement generation in my book, because I'm going to have to, in order to afford my life now, I'm going to have to get a job in the afterlife that I don't even believe in. I'm going to be working well into my next never going to happen lifetime, So we've all these mixed signals. You've got to it's not about the way you look, but you must stay healthier because you're going to need to work longer, and yet people don't want to hire you when you're older. So there's this clash of biology coming up against our cultural and economic landscape that's really confusing. And how we look, our faces are just the tip of the iceberg. But it is really interesting when you realize that because you don't know what people are doing now, because there are so many things available to people, in that top 1%. I think that creates a lot of anxiety for everyone else. Because when you see people like, well, my God, when they tell you, well, Elle Macpherson is turning 50. First of all, she was Elle Macpherson to begin with. Look at that, right? We have no idea. You can't look to people, anyone in the media. People, I've done these interviews who are like, who is aging gracefully in the media? I'm like, don't look to anyone in the media. I'm trying to age with a vengeance. I'm trying to just, keep it. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. I am still here.
I think you're actually aging at people.
I'm aging at, yes. Oh, it's so in your face. I'm sorry, I got a little excited there. I
love it. The passion is amazing.
But it's amazing that she has so much energy at her age. See? She is.
Well, you just turned it right into that dagger that I in no way intended.
I know, but you know what? It's just, I think it makes people unhappy. It creates, you're a person.
And yet you've written a feel-good book.
I've written a feel-good book. Well, because I think by expressing your unhappiness, it feels really good. There's something very cathartic about sharing that with people. But no, I think that when you don't have those, I don't want to have a judgment, advantage, disadvantage of interventions or of these ridiculous anti-aging regimens. It really is kind of criminal that there's a product on the market called Hope in a Jar. What is in that jar? Really? And they sell it to people, and I've considered buying it. I've never bought that one. I'm going to be sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber before I buy Hope in a Jar. But I think it creates a lot of anxiety when you look at yourself and you can say, well, I don't look like that. So the skin, the face, it's just the tip of the issue. But it is, I do think it contributes to some of the unhappiness and confusion around aging.
Well, happily, it's not just a female thing. If you stay up and watch the MSNBC ads at 3 a.m, it's all for Androgel, which is this cream that you put in your armpit that gives you testosterone boost. And they put in the little side effects that if by chance your prepubescent daughter happens to touch it, she will grow a beard. And guys are going for this stuff, and of course it causes heart attacks, strokes.
Oh, I know. Well, late night
and diabetes,
television
but you will be buff,
right?
As they're hauling you out with your hairy little children following you.
Yeah, right. The funny thing is my son. We're not this is really going off in a crazy direction, but I can't believe I'm going to say
let
this.
your hair down.
So
you've earned it.
My son we're not a hairy people, but I do use the estrogen gel, and I think...
By you mean your family or Jews in general?
No, just my family.
Oh, okay.
But I'm doing the hormone replacement therapy thing, and I'm thinking lately, oh my God, I hope I'm not giving him a contact estrogen, and I hope that his lack of facial hair isn't because I hug him so rarely because he's a teenager. I doubt that I'm getting my estrogen on him, and that's of course. That does not sound right, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. One of the
just
things,
rub some Androgel on his face while he's sleeping.
Just to counter it.
He'll wake up like Castro.
Fantastic. I was just going to say, one of those things that has not changed but remained the same because with the march of time, things change, and there are things that are cultural touchstones for people of a certain age in my book, but late night television continues to offer you a plethora of medications that you may or may not use that have a laundry list of just terrible side effects. The deleterious effect of it, this will cure your allergies, but you will have a stroke, a heart attack, and diabetes. It's just unbelievable, and that has remained the same. So it's sort of nice to know that there's a constant, something you can depend upon still.
Isn't there a little part of you that just wants to get that hover around?
What?
The scamper. You obviously don't watch enough late night TV.
What is that?
That's the little scooter you can drive around when you're really old.
Yeah. No, that scooter.
Come on, read your AARP catalog.
Oh, no. I know that scooter.
On.
And I know that some insurances will actually cover that scooter.
That's right. How do you think I got here tonight?
Yeah. Yes, no. I've seen that. And there's the perennial, I've fallen and I can't get up. Oh, by the way, I did fall the other night and I couldn't get up. And I thought, oh my God, this is like an age-related thing. This was, actually, I had a literary accident. It was, What
would that be, Annabelle?
Okay, this is just fresh material, folks, that will be destined to be a story soon. But this is, one of the things I'm writing about in the book is something that, and I didn't come up with this term, but I hadn't heard it till I started doing research on this age of tail end boomers, which has a very kind of fetishy sounding thing, but it's not. Tail end boomers are people at the end of the baby boom, like myself, and the sandwich generation is what it's being called that we are in, where you are sandwiched between having kids at home and trying to take care of the needs of your kids while you are also trying to remain employed and viable, and you're going through this hitting middle age and everything that entails. And many of us have parents who are aging and needing our resources there. So you're really the meat, and the sandwich is, the parents and the kids, whereas previous generations were going through these real benchmarks in life at different times. I mean, by the time my mother was 50, she was a grandmother. She didn't have teenagers living at home driving her crazy. At my house, it is Clash of the Hormones. It's like some terrible superhero movie, and I'm the villain at all moments. And, I've got my son, I've got my parents. And so the other night, it was after the book festival. We were both at the book festival. And I bought a book, which is just a great book. It's called The Empathy Exams. I'm going to do an advertisement for that book right now. I was reading a story about, it's an essay about working as a medical actor and how she had to affect these illnesses. And it's a story about she's working in the hospital. She's younger and working with medical students. When I get the phone rings and I hear my mother's in the hospital. She's on a trip. She's gone to visit my sister in San Francisco, but she's ended up in the hospital because she's in the middle of chemotherapy. And so I'm trying to find out what's going on. She's in the hospital. I'm reading about this hospital story. And I'm reading and walking. I slip, I fall in my kitchen, and I have to go to the emergency room because I've cut myself and it's just not stopping bleeding. And I'm like, it's a triple hospital. You can't make this stuff up. It's a literary accident. I get to the hospital, and I'm going to the hospital because I'm the age now where I'm like, well, if I hurt myself, I should, make sure it doesn't get worse because I got a staph infection last year. Oh, but this is the thing, talking about health problems. At this age, I did not know. I used to argue with my husband. He'd be like, my cholesterol number is lower than yours. And I would say, I don't know my cholesterol number because I'm not so old. I know my cholesterol number now. And I go to the hospital. And because the way I've cut my wrist,
Was it really a cry for help?
The doctor once...
Because I'm looking at the scar to see if it's vertical or horizontal.
Well, he was concerned. He asked me if I had suicidal ideation.
Yes, I didn't want to,
And then I was.
We're here for you.
Yeah, thank you. Then I said, well, I am 52, and I realized he's asking me because this all has a point. Suicide rates are up for middle-aged people. and
I love that laugh when you said that.
I know.
Wow. You sound delighted about that.
Well, no, the delight is that here. Oh, there's no delight. I mean, the delight is that I heard this report on NPR, and I mentioned this in the book, that I keep hearing that suicidal rates are up for middle-aged people for the first time. Usually, being that suicidal ideation is something that happens for people when they're younger or they're very elderly, and they don't know why. I say, ask me why. I know why. Because we're in the sandwich generation. Because my son is driving me insane, and I have to figure out how to. We had to sell my parents' house last year.
Did you tell this to the doctor?
I tried to stop myself because I suddenly realized I might never get out of that. I might be like, it was just all going worse, and I mean, it was a literary age-related accident for sure. But I do know why there is this. I do think I know why the suicide rate is up. I think it's a really difficult time for people, set against the time we're living in, to be hitting this age and wondering what your future is, where you will, where you're heading to.
But do you think the Koch brothers ever feel suicidal?
No. No, I do.
And by the way,
not.
I am so excited to be at KPCC and NPR because this is the closest I will get to the Walton Family Fund money.
That's true.
And I love that they, we take money from the Waltons at NPR.
Me too. That's the Walmart people. That's the people
right. That's the people that own more than 80% of America.
That is true. No, I think that, I think when you get to be middle age, you start to have a different relationship to, where you have landed or are finding yourself in life. And that was one of the things, actually, that I write about in the book, is status and class and what it means to be middle-aged and not be in the top 1%. One of the things, when I...
Are you not in the top 1%?
Yeah. I write, that I live Hollywood adjacent. Which I'm sure everyone probably who's sitting here knows this, and listeners of KPCC. People have the idea if you live in Los Angeles and have ever worked in show business, you're in Hollywood. I'm like, I don't. The great thing about being this age, if there's something great about it, is that I could commit any crime in Los Angeles because I'm invisible now. I'm a woman over 50. In Hollywood, I don't exist. I actually have one little thing I have about Hollywood in the book is I have a little chart of where I stand as an actress over 50, and it is below sober companion to a movie star, Starbucks barista, and what was something I can't remember.
I think
now.
dead TV star.
Oh yes, deceased former reality star.
Why I memorized the chart, I don't know.
Thank you.
But,
oh my gosh.
I thought I might get your back.
The short term. I don't know. I think you read it recently. So short term memory is working for you. I'm very impressed by that. But
I know a lot of dead TV stars, so it hit home.
Yeah.
And yet they have more prestige.
They have more prestige when you're dead. But the thing about Los Angeles, I was talking about Hollywood, but
I didn't mean to trip you up.
No, where was the point I was going?
Hollywood adjacent.
Hollywood adjacent.
Not being in the 1%.
Yes, not being the 1%. You live, close to this, thank you, which is in some sense it shows you even more the work that you, at least that I've had to do, of making my peace with where I have where I am is even. I think it's even more challenging when you glimpse that all the time when you are close to it, and that is a reality of living on the coasts. I think where you have this interaction with the moneyed class, and one of the things I'm writing about is how when you're younger and the promise of a big career and youth and beauty, although I think in my case it was just style, gives you entry into these other worlds that at a certain point that door closes. And I am, that was a subject that was interesting to me that I wanted to write about, because when I had been reading these other books about the Middle Passage, some of these books I just didn't relate to, like Anna Quinlan, who is a fine writer, and I just want to say I have tremendous respect for her. And as I threw her book across the room, I was amazed at how many pages it was because it dented a wall. And that book, Plenty of Candles, Lots of Cake, Plenty of Cake, Lots of Candles, I forget. It's a lovely book. It just reflects a lifestyle and a life that I don't lead. And, it's all about how she has chintz in her fabrics in her summer, in her country house, and plaids in her city house. And I was like, well, I don't have chintz. I can't afford chintz. I can't even afford that fabric. But I don't have the separate. I don't even own my own house. It's mortgaged. I mean, I had 2 houses, and she has this Adirondack furniture out by her pond. And I looked out my window and I saw this plastic container with brackish water in my backyard from a dinner party I had a few months before, which was probably a breeding ground for mosquitoes carrying West Nile virus. I am the people that you're going to get it from coming to my house. And I thought, I wanted to occupy a more populous space and reflect that kind of middle passage in middling in all these different ways. And that was actually something, in a larger sense of status and class in our society, but also just middling in my career. I wanted to write about that too. And that made me feel a little vulnerable.
I want to cry right now.
You want to cry.
Or
and
take
the
a nap,
book is a
one or the
laugh
other.
riot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hopefully,
And yet,
yes,
you've made carnival with your pain. You've gotten books out of being fired. You've gotten books out of getting older. So thank God for these things. If you were in the 1% and a massively successful, if there was some actress wearing knee pads with your name on them,
right?
And there might be.
That would be
we wouldn't get these. We
fetish
wouldn't get
porn
these
again.
books.
Yeah.
You in the fetish porn?
I'm kidding.
It's like the
I'm just so
19th time
kidding.
you've said
I
fetish.
don't know
What
why I'm
is-
saying that. I have
Are
no
you like
idea.
a plushie or a furry? What's your deal?
Neither, but
Really? You're baldy.
Neither, neither
you're
at all.
shaved.
I could,
you're shaved.
be, because I might look good in a plushie outfit. Very forgiving on the middle. You know what a
Yeah.
plushie is, right?
Well, squirrels don't care.
I guess.
They let it go.
I guess
Yeah.
so. I guess so. But I do have this. This is my 3rd book now, and I do sort of have something in mind that I feel like I have my oeuvre, which is the comedy of humiliation. And that, that's just sort of the way I sort of see things, like the Triple Hospital on Saturday night. My literary accident was so embarrassing, so embarrassing.
Well, thank God for humiliation.
Thank God for humiliation. No, I mean, the comedy thing, we were talking about that this weekend, though. Do people set out to write comedy? Is it happen by accident? Is it just the lens that you see the world in? And you were saying you don't think of yourself as you feel marginalized.
Well, I don't trust
when
people who
say
chuckle
that.
while they write. I'm not that guy.
Well, I don't trust
when
people
I
who
write
make
the best
sounds
literary.
out loud while they
well,
write
no,
alone.
you
That's
have an inner
weird.
chuckle. You have like
I have
an
an
internal
inner chuckle.
which could be acid reflux. but,
Chuckle.
yeah.
That chuckle was a scary chuckle.
That was a scary
chuckle.
chuckle, yeah.
It was more. No,
I'm not a
yeah.
chuckler, so I tried to find it.
Right, but I don't think you're saying that you think it's marginalizing to be labeled that way. And
I don't care. I mean, I wrote a book once, a comedy with about Joseph Mengele called Painkillers, and got a little grief.
I have that book.
But I interviewed a Holocaust survivor and said, "How do you feel about this?" And she said, "Well, I'm not going to do her accent because that would be insulting to my grandmothers." But she said, if you don't laugh, they win. So,
right.
I think, and if you don't laugh, I mean, you're just going to walk around massively humiliated. You might as well work with it. Oppressed peoples, in general, are the funniest people. And getting older puts you in an oppressed class.
That
I think
is
what
absolutely
you're saying.
true.
So it would only follow that you're going to be hysterically funny.
Someone,
unlike this riff that I just gave.
No,
right now,
I like it. I'm going to
which
try
was
to build
dry
on
and a bit
it.
academic, but I went there. I'm not afraid to be serious.
I'm not afraid of.
I want that
being
Walton money.
serious. Oh, me too.
No rant, no slant, but we'll take money from Satan. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, listen, you got to be an equal opportunity. I will sell books to anyone, though. Mm-hmm. I will.
Rupert
So
Murdoch
what's the
owns my
difference?
publisher, so I have no room to talk whatsoever.
Who can we, right? I mean, I happen to be wearing handmade vegan shoes.
But they
It's
weren't
true.
made by Chinese blind girls.
No,
I mean,
they were handmade in the Netherlands. But if you think about
Did you
this,
watch?
I did not.
So you're taking this on faith.
Well, but when you think about the carbon footprint of these shoes, it's just it's just horrible. So anything of the handmade vegan shoe from the Netherlands, unless someone took a boat and just rowed it over here, anything good I got from the handmade vegan part has been totally destroyed by the fuel it took to get them to my feet. It's ridiculous. You can't. Everything is so interconnected. How can you, win with?
Do you try
go
to
down
be a
that
good
way?
vegan? Are you?
I'm not a vegan, but I do.
But your shoes
try
are.
to. My shoes are.
So it's a start.
I bought them because they were cute. No.
You got to start from the bottom.
Starting from.
Pretty soon, when you get your vegan granny panties, we'll be.
Yes.
We will have entered a new era.
Edible vegan granny panties.
Well, anything that doesn't have a
I gotta-
face, ladies and gentlemen.
Plant-based vegan granny panties. Wait. Gluten-free.
You know how many people are getting hot right now?
Plant-based, handmade in America granny panties. Thank you. Made from hemp.
You're just not
Locally
ashamed to
sourced
pander.
hemp.
You're just pandering
this
now.
riff is just going on and on. It's going on and on.
It's a great riff, though, because
you.
there
It
are
was
grannies out there who have new hope.
Yes. All the best people are grannies now. But we were actually talking about comedy and about, I know. And someone actually
And it's so
said,
funny to talk about comedy.
Oh, I know. It's so funny. But, someone actually said at this panel this weekend, actually it was really interesting because one of the days of the book fair, I just went and listened to writers talk. And it is the craziest thing to write a book. It is so crazy because it's not, unless you've done it already, usually. Well, there are two kinds of people who people are just dying for books from. People who are on reality TV, I assume. If you got Duck Dynasty, or any part of Duck Dynasty, they want you to write a book. So yes, people are dying for you to write that book or some kind of scandal. Or if you already
They asked me to ghostwrite one of their books, and I had to misspell everything.
Really?
It's crazy.
Oh, I love that. And wear camouflage and chuckle to yourself while you're Duck Dynasty. I'm Duck Dynasty free. I am also I'm shades free. I never read 50 Shades of Grey. I remain shades free. That's right. And yet I think she bought A Small Country. And so I do. And also because of the success of that book, everyone at Random House, I think it was, got a huge bonus that year and probably helped underwrite all these other authors. So, you just can't look down on anything, right? Eat, Love, Pray, Elizabeth Gilbert bought a town for her friends to live in. How can you hate her? I can, but I can't, right? I actually wanted to call my book, I See You Made an Effort by Elizabeth Gilbert, but my publisher said no. But, okay, right, so anyway, so it's interesting to listen to writers because, like every form of entertainment, but writing is so solitary and it just doesn't exist at all until you write that. It's such a crazy thing to sit down and, of course, as Annie Lamott, who I am not a big Annie Lamott, but because I'm not a God person. I'm sorry, but I do love Bird by Bird. I just want to say that. How do you write a book? Bird by Bird. But sitting down to write a book. It's crazy. It's like a madness that you can write a book. So I have so much respect for authors. When someone said something about the comedy about like there are things that are off limits, like the Holocaust being off limits, and I was like, oh, I have an Anne Frank joke in my book.
Yeah, and there was that crazy little thing called Springtime for Hitler that
I
clearly
was going to say, I know,
they had never heard of.
I
and,
know. No one mentioned that. I almost
because
yelled
he was
that
a
out.
critic. And
Yeah.
critics like to categorize things because that gives
that's
them a
what
reason
that
to
was.
exist.
Right.
I say it with nothing but benevolence.
Oh, total benevolence. I don't think there's anything off limits. I really don't. So yeah, that's not funny at all. But anyway, So,
Well, actually, but you were talking about 50 Shades of Grey, which
Yes.
now apparently there is a whole new wave of senior porn gripping the retirement community. And these leisure worlds, or seizure worlds, as some have been known to call them, now have a crazy, the first time there's like septuagenarians with herpes for the first time. And it's a
wow.
tragedy,
Something
Annabelle.
to look forward to. Again, people were like, was there
Crotchless granny
is,
panties
is
is what
there
I'm talking
any,
about.
Ooh,
ladies
is there
and gentlemen.
anything hopeful in your book? I'm like, well, when you're 72, the TSA doesn't make you take your shoes off.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to look forward to. But the thing is, actually, I did do, because it's NPR, I can use a little statistic here. So every 7 seconds, someone in America turns 50. So it really is. And first of all, when I say that out loud, I'm like, yes, I realize, God, I'm old. Because, when you're rooting for people like older people, like, you're old, like, yeah, we're still here. Like one of the signs of turning 50 is when you start rooting for the oldest people in the Olympics. I just remember when I was like really young, that person like, oh, I love her. She's 14 and I'm 14 and I'm going to, but now I'm like, yeah, he's so old. He's 39. That cross-country skier what's that thing where they ski and they shoot, which is so crazy. Yeah, thank you. It's crazy. Why do they do that? I don't get it. But still like, yeah, that can be old, But I really do think one of the interesting things about living in this time is we are at this age, and it's still crazy for me to say at this age because it's like it's a number that seems so huge. When you can have a number that also has word like half a century, that's significant. But we are becoming the largest demographic in America for the first time. This age will become, in the next few years, the largest part of the population, and how we will live, what we will do is
Invest in depends.
Invest,
When
sure.
diapers get cool, that's the next
You're
frontier.
watching too much late night television, just too much.
And yet wearing a very comfortable diaper, which is Paisley.
You wrote about that in one of your books about
The
wearing...
Keith Richards diaper. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, Elvis was the first to make diapers trendy.
Yes, you were.
He died in a diaper, Elvis.
Yeah,
So he forged the way.
Now that's a weeper.
Well,
but
yes and
that's-
no.
Yes, it's true. Yeah. But okay, so how we will live it's really interesting. I mean, right now, one of the things I'm writing about in the book is, we sold my parents' house, which is, I think, one of those big moments of the middle passage as your parents, if they are still alive, are aging, and you see, I have things in common with my parents now. And that's just so weird, and this is why one of those reasons where this aging is not just in your mind. I just hate, and one of the things I wanted to just blow out of the water with this book of like, aging is a state of mind and aging gracefully. Really? Tell that to my pre-diabetes, I mean, this is just one of those things. At this age, certain genetic predispositions have just caught up with me. And it is a strange thing. I have that in common with my parents now. I have more in common with them in certain ways than my son. It is a definite passage. Has anyone read that book, The Middle Passage by James Hollis? That's not a funny book. Let me just say, he's a Jungian psychologist who writes about this moment and why we need to take this moment seriously. And I think it's so serious we have to make a comedy of it. But it really does exist, and I just think it just does a huge disservice to the human experience when you don't, when people just gloss over that and say, oh, it's just a state of mind, because it's more than that. And I do think it is an opportunity, a real call to action at this.
What's the longest you can go without thinking about your age?
Very short amount of time. In the bathroom tonight, I'm washing my hands, and I looked up and I just thought, oh God, I hope it's the lighting. I wasn't thinking.
Do you know when the precise moment kicked in that you started thinking like that?
No, I do, and I actually write about this in the book. Although
A touchstone, as you would call
Yes,
it.
a touchstone.
Yes.
It was, and it was one of the first stories that I wrote about in the book, and it takes place when I'm taking my son to see this concert, and all of these sort of age-related moments began just spinning out for me, and it was the first moment when I realized, yes, I was in a different. I'm looking at the singer on stage, and he's rakishly thin and fairly menacing looking, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, I just want to take him home and make him nutritious snacks for the road. And that was a first moment.
You make it sound hot.
Thank you. Well, it used to be a different kind of thinking. And then I was like, this music is so loud. Oh my God, don't say that out loud. Then I was like, I can't understand the lyrics. Don't say that out loud. It was one, and then I was remembering, and this is one of these generational touchstones, that the first concert that I went to was Jethro Tull.
Nice.
The only rock band fronted by a flautist. It never caught on. The fronting, Jethro Tull did well, but you didn't see a lot of bands with, hey, we play the flute. And I went with my girlfriends, and we were all 16. And my son went to his first concert with me, his mother. Yes, things have changed.
And Ian Anderson, the lead flautist, now runs fish farms in the UK.
I love that.
So that's what happens to aging rock stars.
If
Some
they're
can buy
smart.
towns. He bought a fish farm.
Wow, fish farms could be the future if they're
He just
sustainable.
plays the flute to those little trout, and
Yeah, I love that.
life is. He doesn't know they're trout, but life is good. Life is good
Yes.
for him.
Do they like the flute? Do they like
love it. They love it.
Are they thick as a brick? Because I still.
Oh, look at that reference.
Oh, yes.
Wow,
Okay, because
yeah.
why? Why do I still know all the lyrics to Thick as a Brick, but I cannot remember the password to Annabelle Gurwitch 1 at Gmail? Why? Why? It's not fair. What if, as I continue to age, I only remember the lyrics to Thick as a Brick? What if that's all that's left? It could
What a jolly
happen.
Alzheimer's person you were going to be when you're just singing thick as a brick to the other patients
Great.
as you hover around down the aisle.
It's a weeper.
Oh,
It's
life
just,
is
that would
good.
Be, life is, that is scary. That is very, very scary. But so that night was one of the first sort of like moments, and then I did have the thing happen where I actually liked the music, and I went down to dance. And an arm reached out and grabbed me, said, "Oh no, you can't go down there. They don't want to see us on camera." And I knew instantly it wasn't us like brunettes, us like even women, us like English-speaking people. Us meant old people, because it was being shot for the web, and the teenagers, they can't see our visage, would turn no, like lepers, we must be quarantined, we old people. And that was like a night when I believe, it just hit me so hard, and I was writing that story, and actually the whole book I was writing these essays, and I didn't even have it in mind that I was writing a book about this middle passage, but they were just one after another, these essays about these various indignities and humiliations that were hilarious. They were so funny. They were hilarious to me. I did not chuckle. I don't chuckle when I write. I just want to make that clear. I do not chuckle, Jerry. But, and then I realized, this is a portrait of middling. This is a portrait of middling in so many ways. When I was writing this story about going to hotels and feeling compelled to steal their products, to like hoard them, to call down for,
Do you really think that's age-related? I did that at 23. I mean, and I wasn't even staying in the hotel.
No, that's funny. Yeah, no, that's that. But that particularly, no, that's poverty related. Having been poor, but then realizing that I'm never going to be rich, it only amped it up for me. When I'm at a hotel, I call down numerous times and try to make my voice sound like I'm not just putting them in my bag and hoarding them. Oh, I've used all of the 3 bottles of bath gel. I took a few baths today. What? They don't want to know that. No. So there is some age, this fear of holding on, of like, this is my last chance. No, that was definitely age related. But that I didn't even realize these stories were adding up to a portrait of middling. And then when I had a few of them, I was like, okay, that's the theme of this book. They're not just random, unrelated indignities. No, they're related indignities. They're the cousins, the stepchildren of aging. Yes.
And despite this description, it is one of the funniest books you will ever read, despite the tragic implications of what you just said.
Thank you. Well, if you're not laughing, you're crying.
On the inside.
On the inside. Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm.
It's a brilliantly funny book, though.
Thank
really,
you.
really is.
That means a lot, because I've been such an admirer of your work.
All right, we're done with that part.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
It's true.
It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock, and Jerry and I talked about taking questions because we like the interaction. We are that age. We like to share. We want to open it up, right?
Yes, it didn't happen till I turned 50. Before that, taciturn.
Nope.
Now I'm a chatty Cathy. I just can't stop. That's just the thing that kicks in when you're 50.
People know you for that. Chatty Cathy, Jerry Stahl, chatty Cathy. People always say that. Never once. Okay, so do we have any people who have questions? I know we had put out a call. Oh, yes, hello.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Strout, and I made a new friend here tonight, and she has accused you of being involved in Haitian dancing.
Oh, yes. Uh-oh. You have... Oh, hi. It's great to see you. Yes, we used to do a lot of... in my 20s, I did accused. I did a lot of Haitian and African dance because I was always attracted to the most popular forms of entertainment. I never thought kale was going to catch on. I read for the pilot of Friends and was like, no one will ever watch this. I've always been
Is there
wrong,
a chance we can get some Haitian dancing?
No chance at all. I can't do it anymore. But I do. The funny thing is my friend and I have reconnected, Gail. We've reconnected because one of the things about turning 50, I did do, this is not so funny, but I did decide I needed to really, because, I do think there's something about that number that makes you realize there is an expiration date coming. I really want to up the amount of joy in my life, and I love singing, but singing hates me. I am terrible at it, but I have given myself permission at this age to suck at things. And so now I joined a non-denominational, and also I'd read that, one of the things that helps you to not age as, your brain health is joining a choir. I'm like, how am I going to join a choir? I can't sing and I'm an atheist. So I found a non-denominational, non-auditioned choir. It's a good thing to live in Los Angeles. You can find these things. And we have a fantastic choir leader, and we sing traditional Zulu songs and songs from Ghana and Haiti, and it's fantastic. And there's drumming. The Golden Bridge Community Choir. You will not see, there's maybe a little bit of dancing to some of these traditional African songs, but if you want to experience joy, it's really fantastic. And it's just something, why am I talking about? I've done, and I do recommend, although it's not a how-to book, is to do things that really give you a lot of joy, and I just suck at it, and it's fantastic. I try to stand in the back and just sing my heart out, and a little bit of Haitian dancing, a little bit of African Haitian dancing, and I returned to that because it gave me a lot of joy in my 20s, and it slipped away, it got away from me, and now I'm back at it, and I do think that's of any sort of things I've wisdom to pass on, or like things that I've done that have been good at this age. I don't buy hope in a jar anti-aging cream. find a way to to sing. Over here, yes, thanks.
Saved you. Hi, my name is Lisa.
Hi.
I look forward to reading your book.
Thank you.
I recently was on a date with a new younger man when I started having hot flashes. And I wondered if you had any hot flash stories or wisdom to impart.
Does that chuckle to say? So several things. So one of the things I did want to include in the book, because I am married, I do write about sort of, love at this age and relationships. And I wrote about marriage, and I do write about sort of this middle of marriage because I did feel it's an underserved topic. Beginnings are always exciting. Weddings. The HuffPost now has a divorce column. There's no column. There's no section of paper called like "Still Here." Yep, Jeff and Annabelle still doing it. It's worse. So I write about middle marriage, but I also did go to see a love coach who works with women who are dating at this age, and you'll have to read it to really believe it. It was fascinating of that experience working with her.
Why don't you describe the perfume?
Oh,
because
she
that
has
was one of the funniest things in the book.
Perfume that smells like bubble gum and vagina, and it really does work.
And there is actually a scratch and sniff page in the book, which I thought was innovative.
Volvacious. It's fantastic. But it can be. I have heard, and I write about this because I wanted to speak to this audience, about this in my readers. My friend Christine, and she asked me to use her real name in the book. She was on Match.com, and her perfect matches that they made for her were her brother and a homeless guy named Bling Bling. It can be challenging. But there are, apparently, guys who want to date women of a certain age. I don't like that word cougar. It's too predatory. It's really, it marginalizes us.
You tell that story. I actually have hot flash envy now.
Thank you. But, with the hot flash at that moment, I think it really depends on where you are at in the date. It could be the moment to disrobe. It could be the perfect moment. It could be the perfect excuse for that. I don't think that there's any way to get around it other than carrying a fan, a very attractive fan. It's a little bit Madame Butterfly, but what are you going to do about it? I think that's, I don't think there's any way to get around it. I don't have any great tip, I think, except to embrace it, because when it happens, I describe it in the book as it's like suddenly you've got dengue fever. I was totally unprepared. There was just no way, and this is one of those moments too where, I don't feel our mothers, at least my mother or anyone I knew, ever talked to me about this. I did no preparation for this whatsoever. When it just happened, it just was it's like that electric feeling that used to be like lust, like right from your toes up, total and complete, like that thing, that lust thing. That's what a hot flash, total and complete sensation. And I was completely unprepared. It's like being electrocuted, but then there's the sweating, and you don't know, and afterwards you go, oh my God, that was a hot flash, because it's not just being hot. No, just being hot. We've all been hot, but the blood boiling sensation, it is just completely unfair to still, I was like, it's like getting I think electric shock therapy, but still having the short-term memory. It's not that you should take it away from you. But I think on a date, I think that, you have to just embrace it, because let's face it, if it's either just completely disrobe, and it's that kind of a date, right, where it's just that, thing. But otherwise, if you don't acknowledge it, it's gonna come out pretty quickly, and then it's just gonna be over anyway. So I embrace it, yeah. And perhaps I don't know. I guess it depends what the fellow's occupation is. Hopefully, I don't know, something in the medical field that would be useful. at this age. Why didn't I marry a doctor? It'd be so convenient. Yes. No other questions. We had asked if anyone had age-related stories to share of these moments when you felt that this had occurred to you, that you were in fact a different place in your life. I would love to hear your thought about that. Yes?
Hi, I'm Annette.
Hi, Annette.
I want to know why people don't talk about it. So I'm going to look around the room because I don't understand. You said your mother didn't talk about it.
Yes.
Women older than us don't talk about it. Why
My
is
mother
it
talked
such a
about it constantly.
It's a
Well, that's a
all
really
of it
good
comes
way.
as a complete surprise. So
Yes. Well, okay. Well, I think that there are some reasons. I mean, first of all, Jerry, your mother talked about it constantly. Well, but the question was it useful to you? I mean, you know,
Well, I knew
how
what to
old
avoid.
Well, how old were you when she talked to you about it? That's the
Way
issue.
too young. And I don't know why she started getting them in their 30s. I don't understand it.
Well, you can have
Really?
you can have early menopause. Sure.
Wow. Could that be genetic? Should I inform my daughters that, fan up?
Okay, that's an interesting question. People have said to me, like, what advice do you have for someone in their 20s? I said, well, God, no, don't talk about it then. No, you don't, that's like a spoiler alert, right? And also, even if you did say it at that age, they couldn't hear you because it's like a high-pitched dog whistle. When you talk about, these age-related issues to really young people, they're just trying to establish themselves. And actually, at this, people in their 20s now are living in their parents' basements. They got enough to worry about, right? Don't talk to them about it, really. But as you get towards this age, I think there was a reason why our mothers didn't talk about it. First of all, this happened when my mother was going through this. I was out of college. I was on my own. I wasn't around. We didn't get to see this. Now, at this age, many of us have kids living at home. So we are in a different relationship, and different things are happening at different times. So we are many of our children will be seeing this, and scarred for life is what my son has said. Scarred for life. But also, just generationally, what do people talk about? In the past, you had 2 generations ago. Right before the baby boom was the greatest generation. They also, had a leftover from the generation before that, the silent generation. They didn't talk about these things. There were so many things that weren't talked about. My own grandmother, when they left the old country in Russia, she had been farmed out to an orphanage. All these things happened that we never knew. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have known some of that history. They just didn't talk about that. Now you can't stop us from talking about it. But there is something to be gained from that, because I do think that, I would have liked to have been a little bit prepared. I'm not sure how, I would not in my 20s, but as I get a little bit older, I would have loved to have known a little bit, prepared, know what's coming. Sure, I think and also to talk about it amongst ourselves. I know my mother did not have friends, and still to this day that she talks about in this with the girlfriends in the same way, or her male friends, that with this kind of community. And I actually found another one of those things that I do think is, I don't want to say wisdom, but I do feel like at this age, my friendships are even more important to me than I realized. And I was just saying to someone today that the sisterhood aspect of this book, that is why, I guess that's one of the reasons why I agreed to the granny panties on the cover, which was not my idea. I just want to say that. I didn't have a book cover in mind, but in my mind, I had it to be something like a pair of pleated khaki pants with a no sign over it, But I know it's not iconic enough. It was just that when I was getting those AARP emails with the army of khaki panted elders marching into their futures. What I call the pleated khaki pant. It's the white flag of the defeated waistline. They just want to khaki you. At this age. But I knew it wasn't iconic enough. But back to the thing about the sisterhood thing, I really felt like I need my girlfriends in particular to talk to about this stuff, because I want to go through this with other people. I think my mother really went through this alone. And I think many people in that generation went through things alone. They just took to their bedroom. We just didn't see her for a long time. You know, I mean, even in my 20s when she was going through this, she just was in the bedroom resting. There was a lot of resting, a lot of I'm resting. I'm just too angry for resting, but there was a lot of napping, and I wanted to. That's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, was to get this out in the open. The granny panties have been a funny topic of discussion. It's so funny as an author. Reviewers mention the granny panties sometimes. You don't really have that much of a choice. When you work with your publisher on what the cover is. The cover is something that comes from the cover department, not usually from the brain of the writer. And that's an interest. I mean, it's a sort of a funny thing that reviewers actually talked about, the granny panties on the cover.
It's one of the greatest covers I've ever seen, though. It's fantastic.
Oh, I love that. For some reason, the paper that's on the cover is very soft, and I'm not sure why, but it's kind of feels good. But
it's actually absorbent, which is odd.
Late night TV, and it doubles as a diaper, an adult diaper. Wouldn't you know it?
You wanted stories. I have that.
Yes.
But my last birthday, the birthday before last, I put on my Facebook friends and family thing, getting old is not so bad. My Spanx fit over my Depends. My kids and my family were horrified, and then and they laughed. But my story is that about 15 years ago, I went.
You are really my target audience. Can I just say?
You are. I'm just thinking you're going to like the line about the pairs of Spanx that crumpled at the foot of my bed and how our bedroom is just an erection killer. Just ask my husband. Yes.
Some men like them. Anyway.
The diapers or the Spanx?
Both.
They hate Spanx.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, so go on.
You are in a fast crowd.
Yes.
Well, my kids, Uptight has come back. Anyway,
interesting.
The story is about 15 years ago, I was working in San Diego. I was a visiting nurse, and it was a hot day. I stopped in Burger King to get an iced drink, and the little ingenue hands it to me, and she said, "That'll be 25 cents." And I'm like, "What?
Yes.
Are you serious?" She goes, "Oh, well, I gave you the senior discount." So that was my first, and now you cross a line many years later, like, "Where's my senior discount?"
Right. That's so funny you said that. I mean, there are these moments, these funny moments that you can't believe belong to you and your life. Like, so for instance, my son asked me what kind of computer I brought to college with me. Where do I begin? Oh, and whiteout, huh? What is that? And when I told him, I was telling him about how we were talking about, this had to do with a concert, taking him to a concert. I was like, my mom and I, my family, we didn't listen to music together because, now it's so portable. You all have your iPods, and there's 1,000 stations you can find, and it's portable. You take it around, you listen. We had one record player in our house growing up, and when I told my son that, there was this pause. And he asked me if I had flown to New York to go to college or if airplanes hadn't been invented then. And I thought, well, the funny thing is there were things that hadn't been invented then. And when that kind of thing becomes a part of your lexicon, when you realize, when you start to sort of categorize the things that hadn't been invented yet when you were younger, and when you realize you're that person that's telling the story. I was, again, telling my son that I was so broke when I started working in New York, when I was in New York in the 20s, when I was in New York in the 20s. Oh, yes. When I was in New York in my 20s, that I couldn't afford even, a stereo. And I used to listen to music on the outgoing cassette tape on my answering machine, on the outgoing messages part of my answering machine. And he's, what's an answering machine? What's the outgoing tape? It just, I was like, okay, you remember when your grandparents and older folk. I had a singing teacher I never took, obviously. I realize now, I had a singing teacher in high school who, when I would go and study with her, we would drink schnapps. She was from Vienna, I think, and she would we'd drink schnapps together. I think she gave up on my singing immediately. It was like, let's just go straight to the schnapps. And, she would tell me stories about, her life and these things that spoke of this other world. And I'm like, the answering machine, outgoing cassette tape. That's what that sounds like to younger people now. So yeah, it can happen to you, and it does happen to you. And when you read the book, I think I do mention those things, not in a sentimental way, but I do think, it makes me chuckle in my head, not out loud, Jerry, when I think of those things.
You're allowed to chuckle.
I'm allowed to chuckle. I don't know, chorkle, chuckle. No, I'm not a chuckler. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I very recently revisited sexy Brazilian samba. And
For those of you in the audience, in the radio audience, she's moving her hips very suggestively.
Yes, we're getting a visual.
And I got there to this class, and there's this beautiful teacher, Rachel, who's about 20. I don't know. She has a kid, but I can't tell age anymore. That's another thing. She looks 20, 25.
Right.
Beautiful. And I said to her, thinking that we'd cross paths at some other point in my life, have we worked together before? Have you in the theater or whatever? And she goes, no. And I by the way, was thinking I looked really good because I didn't have my glasses on, and I thought, hey, it's coming back. It's back.
Yeah.
And she goes, the senior center?
Oh, just a little piece of the soul dies. I realized the other day that my reading glasses are now just my all-day, everyday glasses. I had an age-related accident. I was doing a little bit of shopping therapy, and I'm wearing this. I bought this necklace. I thought, oh, yes, it's a leaf. It's a little gold leaf. It's so pretty and delicate. And I got home, I put my reading glasses, my all-day, everyday glasses on, and I saw it's an angel wing. And now it's just a punishment, and I just wear it to remind myself, don't take the glasses off, ever. Don't be shy about the reading glasses. My reading glasses need reading glasses. I was on the phone with my phone company, and I was having a problem with my BlackBerry, which just means I'm old, because one day I'm going to turn my BlackBerry on and it's just going to go, it's just going to sigh or make the same noise I make standing up, or like, oi, right? So and it says, okay, well, you need to read the serial number off of the, on the thing. And I said, I can't, see that. I said, well, do you want to put on glasses? I'm wearing the glasses. Why? Why do they have to make the serial number so small? I just said, is there anything wrong? I'm old. That's right. I just said, I'm old. I said that. I mean, what can you do? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The sound. Oy. I'm not allowed to make that sound around my son. He's like, Mom, you sound like Bubby. Oh, that's a great thing to hear. Yeah, thank you. Aging me. Yes.
Were you ever conflicted about being so open about your age, being that you worked in an ageist industry and it helps you to own your experience, or you might be prejudiced against?
Absolutely. Totally. It's really funny you said that and you asked that. I really haven't talked about that. And I haven't told this story. But I I was really a little worried about it, and then I thought I really have nothing to lose. First of all, there is this crazy thing where that thing, the interweb, has really blown it for every actress. Although some people are still in denial about this. I mean, once IMDb came out, started putting your age out there, it became really hard to lie about your age, which for an actress I felt was important. At this point in my life, I just don't, really see myself primarily as an actress. I'm really, there's the internet, it has my age. But, I just did this reading in New York with a group of actresses of a certain age. And the night before, one of the actresses, very well known and very fantastic actress, called me and said, well, I just want to make this clear that I don't want to talk about my age because I'm an actress, And I thought, oh, honey, all over the internet it says that you're turning 50. I don't know who you think you're kidding here. I did not say that. I was like, well, of course not. No. Don't look at the title of the book, On the Edge of 50. But I was worried about it, and in fact, when I was writing this book, I called my agent at the time, and I was going to tell her that I was writing a book about turning 50 when she went off on a little rant about how her client, Jennifer Grey, had just fired her, and how upset she was because she didn't think that she would work again anyway because she had just gone on Dancing with the Stars and told everyone she was 50. And she said that in a way as if Jennifer had been on television and taken her clothes off and relieved herself on the dance floor. And I just thought, and I'm saying this knowing that Jennifer has completed some movies this year, and she's doing just fine. I just want to say, and I love her and respect her as an actress, and I love that she did that. And I thought, well, I want to be the person who I respect and not just be acting out of fear, because I was afraid of that. I thought, well, this is taking a chance, and then I thought, at this age, if I can do anything, I want to emulate the people I respect. And I had a lot of respect for Jennifer Grey for doing that. And then my agent fired me. So I didn't have to worry about that, as it turned out, of how I was going to tell her I was writing a book about turning 50. It became a moot point. I don't know if I was, I think, well, gee, if I was just thinking of myself as an actress, would I still feel that way as primarily an actress and not a writer? But I hope if that had been the case, I would still be doing this, because I just felt as a woman, as an author, as someone who was lucky enough to have a voice, to be able to do that, I felt was important, particularly as there are so many of us. I wanted to destigmatize this experience. So I've been 50ing it up. Thank you.
Do you ever see Lillian Hellman's face? It hasn't
Personally?
it never held her back. What I mean is, writers can just age. It's fine.
That
You
is
can own
true.
it.
Well, look at Jane Goodall. I mean, if there's any model of aging,
And great skin, as you say in your book, despite living in the sun.
And let me just say, that's how shallow I am. First of all, is there anyone I can admire more than Jane Goodall? The work she does. What sunscreen is she using? I just hope that she's just turned 80, and just couldn't admire her more. I just do wish she would tell us, although maybe there's a lot of cloud cover in the rainforest.
Big hats.
Big hats. I do wonder about that too, and that is, I think, that's what I do. I like, I think that's where comedy comes in too, where you can look at Jane Goodall and you can look at the great work she does, but you can also wonder, what kind of sunscreen is that lady using? Because that's the high and the low of it, of the existence of life. By the way, we were wondering, on the way in here, I noticed there were, I don't know if you always do this at the Crawford Family Forum, but there's tissue boxes everywhere. I'm like, is this because it's a book about turning 50 and aging? Like, they think we're going to be crying? So I just put one in my pocket just in case. Just in case it turned out.
I teared up a couple times.
Did you?
I did.
But I wonder, do they always put tissues out, or is it just the subject matter? We will maybe not know. I don't know. We'll have to find. We'll have to come back to another event.
I
and
thought it
find
was in your
out.
contract.
Maybe. Well, it is 8:29, which means that we are going to be wrapping this talk up. And
It was a pleasure to be the Ed McMahon of Hot Flash this evening. I'm really honored to have been here.
Can I just say thank you so much to everyone for coming and for Jerry, because, I've been doing a lot of events all over the country. I did with Barbara Ehrenreich and all the fantastic actresses in New York, Frances Fisher, some just great people, Alice Ripley, Tanya Pink. It's amazing people. This is my first event of doing a conversation about this book with a gentleman who didn't let those granny panties stand in your way from reading the book, which I really thank you for, Jerry, for taking it
no need to
seriously
flatter. It
enough
was a
to
great
read.
book. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jerry's book is available too, and we will be out in the lobby, the Walton Family Fun lobby, I think, signing copies of the book. And I hope you enjoy the book, and I thank you so much for coming out here. This is really fun and a great pleasure. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.